Welcome back to another MTBC Telling Our Stories. Today we're sitting down with Miss Cyndi Pruitt. She is a Sunday school teacher here at our church. She sings in our choir along with her husband, Hal. I think at this point you'll probably have seen his story. But Miss Cyndi, I want to say thank you for being here, sharing your story and your heart and what Jesus has done. Before we dive into you coming to meet Jesus, I want the people to kind of get an idea of who you are. And so if you'd like to share maybe hobbies, family, interests, things like that, anything to kind of show who Miss Cyndi is.
Well, my hobbies are I like to sew,
Okay.
and I did some tailoring for a while, but I'm more into bowling now. I do bowl on a league. My husband and I both bowl on a league. Really enjoy that. The league we're on is it's competitive but yet fun.
Okay.
It's not one of those big series where there's thousands of dollars at stake. There is, a little prize fund, but it's more for fun. Young people, older people, it's a whole mix, and I have been doing that for years and years, probably 20 something years now. Other than that, I enjoy just relaxing, watching movies.
What's your favorite movie?
Oh my. One of them would be Somewhere in Time.
Okay.
Any movie that involves Pierce Brosnan.
Pierce Brosnan. I'm going to be honest. I can't picture. I'm not good with names with
He
actors
is
and actresses.
007, those movies.
Okay. The
Yeah.
James Bond.
James Bond.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the Irish guy. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got you now.
Yeah.
We're okay.
And just more of the relax. I do like some suspense movies, but not the blood and guts movies.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
just more of the suspense. And I like romance movies. I like things like Star Wars. Just a whole different variety
Okay. Yeah, you
of
like
movies.
movies. Yeah.
And let's see what else. Just mostly sewing, bowling. I guess that's it, really. Before that, I was working full time. I've been retired for 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I've enjoying like sitting on my front porch. I cannot be in the sun at all because I have lupus. And so my front porch gets shade from about 10:30 on. So that is my sanctuary. I have a swing out there and a couple of rocking chairs, and just enjoy sitting out there and just relaxing.
Yeah.
So before that, when I was working, for lack of a better term, my title was attendance and truancy, but the old-fashioned term would be truancy officer. So just kids that knew me knew you better be in school.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was important to me. I was not made to go to school, and the way I came about that job was certainly God-led.
And you were the attendance and truancy overall of Anderson County?
Just Anderson districts 1, 2, and 4, which is 30 something schools. I don't know the exact number now, but it would be over all of Pendleton, Belton, Honea and the District 1, which would be Palmetto, Wren,
Gotcha.
Powdersville.
Okay.
It was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot
I
of
would
kids.
generally meet with about 400, have about 400 and something referrals a year.
Oof. Yeah. That's a lot. Goodness. And then family, share about that?
As far as my immediate family,
Just whoever.
or before I married,
Hey, either one.
yeah, either one. Well, I grew up in a non-Christian, what I would call non-Christian home. Now, my mom did grow up a Christian, and she did take us to church in our early years, and I'm so grateful for that. But eventually, my dad was an alcoholic. He was actually what you call a working alcoholic. He would go to work during the week, but on weekends he was out.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I saw many things little kids shouldn't have to see. The fights, some of them pretty serious fights. I'm not going to get into detail of that, but that type of thing. My mama, she did try, but eventually she gave up and started drinking too. And quit church. And so, fortunately, when we moved to Anderson, that was, I grew up in Georgia. When we moved to Anderson, South Carolina, there was this church bus coming around. We lived in these little apartments, 2-bedroom apartments. I have had 3 brothers and sisters, and they would pick me up for church. I'm so thankful for that church bus. You don't see many of them anymore, but I'm so thankful for that bus because that was my only way to get to church.
Yeah.
And then I had, a couple of the families there just more or less adopted me. I would go home on Sunday afternoons with one certain family, and I knew then at age 15, so this is what I want. I knew then I wanted a Christian family one day. I knew this was it. And but I was very fortunate to have those influences.
Yeah.
So if you're someone in church and you see a teenager alone and they come to church on there, be their mentor. It's important, and it helps.
Yeah.
And since then, like I was saying in his testimony, eventually I met him here. I moved to Pendleton on my own. I was able to get my own apartment, going to school at Tech and working. And eventually I had gotten a roommate that went to this church. Her name's Rhonda Hutchins. I know she wouldn't mind me saying that. So it would help me split in the rent where I could go to school. And she was coming to this church, and I was still driving to Anderson to that church. And she talked me into coming to visit here, and just fell in love with Mount Tabor. And of course, I spotted Hal in the choir. And matter of fact, I told my friend at that time that I'm going to get a date with that guy. Now, I never asked him anything, so his testimony, like he said, it was God-led. His dad helped a little bit, put the idea in his head.
Poked him in the right direction.
And of course, we ended up together and in a short amount of time, because we both knew at that time. We were both 22. I think he might have been 23 later on, but we both knew at that time what we wanted in life, what kind of marriage and everything. And I did pray for God to lead me to a Christian man, if it was his will.
Yeah.
And it's not always God's will for you to even be married. So I said, if it's God's will, lead me. And if not, tell me what you want me to do.
There you go. Now, in the span of from being picked up, seeing, being brought to church, now where in that did you come to know Jesus as your Savior?
I was 9 years old.
Okay.
I was going to Oak Grove Baptist in Georgia. This was the church our mom, she would take us to for a while, then eventually quit. But then they also had a bus.
Okay.
And she would put us on the church bus. She would make sure we would get on the bus and go. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was during a revival week. And this is back in the day where you heard a lot of sermons on hell. And this pastor, and I wished I could remember his name. It was visiting pastor, but he was talking about hell one evening. And I was sitting in the pew, and even at 9 years old, I felt like if I didn't get up and go, it was like something was pushing me, physically pushing me to get up, go. And I felt like if I didn't get up and go, I was going to burn up. I mean, literally, I felt hot there sitting in the seat. And I remember that, and so that's when I went forward. Yeah.
That's awesome. At a revival. And then the Lord was able to orchestrate and work out that you get plugged into a church up here. And that's awesome. Now, thinking from that point of 9 years old of coming to know Jesus to where you are now, have there been moments in your life where you just seen Jesus just show up in a powerful and just amazing ways?
Most definitely. When I was diagnosed with lupus, I looked up material, which at that time was a mistake for me because I found old material.
Mm,
And they all said, usually they don't survive past age 40, 45. And of course, that put a fear in my heart
yeah.
that, oh, I'm not going to live very long.
Mm,
I wanted to be able to see my children grow up and all like that. Not that I was worried about, where I would go, but just, as a young mother,
mm,
you know. So I think Hal told you, after I had Aaron, um, literally, I mean, I couldn't answer. I remember he said, I think that one of the numbers on my blood pressure was 0,
mm,
and I remember the nurse in there was somebody I'd gone to school with, and she had gotten upset, and the doctor had made her leave,
mm,
and I remember the nurse telling me, I remember her just saying, Miss Pruitt, Miss Pruitt. I could hear it,
mm,
but I couldn't answer her.
mm,
It was the oddest. I don't even really know how to describe it other than it was like I was almost like a dream,
mm,
but it was real.
mm,
And I could hear her trying to tell me to come around, Miss Pruitt, Miss Pruitt. Uh, I don't remember necessarily really seeing anything. I didn't float above the
mm,
table and none of those stories like
mm,
that. But uh, the next thing I knew, it was after some surgery. They took me in and did some surgery. And next thing I knew, I was back in a room. And when I came to, I had the biggest peace that this must be. No, I actually thought this. I do remember thinking this while I was going through all that. This must be what it's like to die. I remember that thought. Now, I didn't say that because I couldn't speak,
mm,
but I think they said I was going through shock. I had lost a lot of blood.
yeah.
And I remember thinking, this must be what it's like to die.
Mm,
I have never been afraid to die from that moment on.
mm,
God gave me a peace after that it's okay.
yeah.
It's okay. It's nothing to be afraid of. That it was like you're going to sleep,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. That's a big thing. I think a lot of people fear death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's that's powerful right there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, now, when you going through these experiences and going through what y'all have been through, have there been verses in the Bible or scripture that the Lord's really brought up to you, or maybe a life verse that you have?
I do have a life verse that I adopted as a teenager
Okay.
in church because of my youth leader, and this family is the one that when the bus of that church had stopped running,
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember why, but it was an old bus, so that probably had something to do
May have
with it.
broke down.
But this family would pick me up, and I never appreciated it like I should have as a teenager
Mm-hmm.
until I got older and had my own children because she had 4 children. They had 4 children of their own,
Mm-hmm.
and it was my youth leader and his wife, and I thought later on in life, that's tough. They're trying to get 4 children ready for church,
Yeah.
and they take the time to make sure I'm at church.
Mm.
I mean, and I say that to get to the point you were saying is with everything going on. I think I was talking to the youth pastor's wife one time about my situation, and she knew it, but why?
Mm.
Why did God put me in this family? Not that I hate, please understand, I didn't hate my mother, father, anything like that, just a situation,
Mm-hmm.
the circumstances I was in. And she told me, she said, Cyndi, God is preparing you for something.
Mm.
What He's putting you through, He is getting you ready for something. We don't know what,
Mm.
but you're going to be able to withstand whatever it is that's coming your way because you've already weathered through a lot.
Yeah.
And the way she worded all that to me just made a lot of sense. So the verse after that that struck me not long after that was 1 Corinthians 4:11. Not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned whatsoever state I am therewith to be content. That you're okay.
Yeah.
No matter what the circumstance are. Paul was in a lot of different circumstances. He learned he was doing well, and yet he learned how to do with nothing. And so, and then of course 4:13 is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, which that's, read before that. It has to do with that, but yeah, 4:11
Yeah.
is my life verse.
Yeah. Philippians 4:11.
Philippians 4:11.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's a great reminder of, because I think we get focused on the bad or the hurdles or the curveballs, whatever word you want to use. That's awesome. I'm just excuse me, sorry. I'm struck of the faithfulness of someone in the church to love you and care for you in such a way that they pick you up in the midst of their chaos, like you said, with 4 kids. And because of their love for Jesus, obviously, and for you, look what's happened.
Yeah.
You have kids and grandkids in church and faithfully following Jesus. And man, we just never know the impact, do we? So, great reminder for all of us. Youth are important. always want to remember that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I think that's part of the reason, as crazy as my job sounds, my job that I had sounds, obviously it involved youth. And that's where my heart lied with them, because school was such a salvation for me. For me, it was, at that time, it was a way to get away from home.
Yeah.
I would be at school hardly as the sun rises and the hall's almost empty, and go to the end of the hall and just watch the sun die. And Mr. Ellis, English teacher, 11th grade English teacher, would always get there early too. And I never knew until the end of school year that he was a pastor as well. And I know he saw something. For some reason, we just connected, and but anyway, school was definitely salvation for me. I had a counselor there, Miss Lee, that I was able to talk to, and as well. So the school counselors are so important. And I don't know, unfortunately nowadays they are so inundated by having to do a lot of written work, whereas they need to be counseling with students.
Yeah.
They need to have that time. But I was able to get this job. I really didn't think I'd get it. Here I am in my, I had gone back to school at Southern Wesleyan, finished up a bachelor's degree, and at that time, I didn't think I'd get this job that I was applying for the truancy. And I would see young ladies come in before me that would go in for an interview, and they look nice and they're younger, and I'm going, yeah, I'm never going to get this. And the secretary had asked me several times, I knew her by phone, you really need to come in. I think you need to come in. And okay, she's going to keep pestering me till I come in. So I did. And I was about to get in my car after the interview. And my boss at that time came out to the car. He said, Cyndi, would you step back in, please? And I remember the time being almost 3 o'clock or maybe a minute or two after. Came back in, and they offered me a job. Well, later, I'd gotten a phone call from Rhonda, who goes to our church and now, and I had asked the Sunday school class to pray for me about this job. It's the right thing to do. She said, I just wanted to know how your job interview. I didn't think about it. She said, I'm so sorry. I didn't think about it until I started praying for you around 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
That was my confirmation
Yep.
right there
Yeah.
that it was okay.
Yeah. That's awesome. And it's, you talked about that the youth leader's wife said that God was preparing you for what was ahead. You know, I can, well, I can't really imagine, but I could guess that there was probably plenty of situations you were walking into that was very similar to what you grew up with your job.
And I feel like those kids knew that.
Mm.
I had to be careful, obviously. Luckily at my disposal, I had a lot of faith-based counselors and all I could send them to or whatever. But I think the thing I wanted to get across to them is life's not fair.
Mm.
You've got more obstacles than a lot of kids around you. And I would tell them this. But you're at an age now, you have to make a decision. What do you want for your life?
Yeah.
And then you make it happen. You know, and I think they knew that I understood.
Yeah. You've been in their shoes.
I think God, like I said, put me in that place for that reason.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Now looking, if someone's sitting here watching or listening to your story, Miss Cyndi, what is one thing you want them to know about your relationship with Jesus?
It's still growing. It's still going. Just because I'm almost 67, I'm not sure I have that right. Oh, he's shaking his head now. Let me think for a minute. 70, 57. Oh, shoot. No, 65.
Okay.
I mean, I'm going backwards. 68.
Okay. One of those.
Anyway, 68 years old, that we don't need to stop. Just because we're getting older. We need to be those mentors. I have mentors. You know, I hope I can be a mentor or am a mentor to some. I know certainly even after marriage, there were certain people in the church I just really knew they were prayer warriors or, man, they are really close. You just knew it. You just felt it. You didn't have to ask. You just knew it. Yeah. And that is one thing I really hope that others will see through me, that and I'm still not as close to God as I should be. And I don't, you know, even though I know perfection's not, we're not going to be perfect, we're to strive for it anyway. And I don't know. I guess that would be it.
I think that's great. I think that's a great reminder that we all still need to be growing. That's awesome. Well, Miss Cyndi, I appreciate you coming down and sharing your story and being honest of where you were and where God has brought you to and where you are now. And I can guarantee that someone will be encouraged and hear your story. So I just want to say thank you again.
Thank you.